What if the thing stressing you the most right now is only hurting you because you are carrying it alone? What if the moment you truly trusted Allah, everything did not disappear, but finally made sense? This is why trusting Allah changes everything. In life, everyone reaches moments where they feel overwhelmed, uncertain, and exhausted from trying to control outcomes that are clearly beyond their hands. We plan, we worry, we replay scenarios in our minds, and yet the heart remains restless. This restlessness often comes from one core issue. We trust our effort more than we trust Allah's wisdom. Islam teaches us that true peace does not come from having control, but from knowing who is in control. Trusting Allah, Tawakkul, does not mean giving up on effort or responsibility. It means doing what is within your capacity, while fully believing that the result rests with Allah alone. When a believer truly understands this, their relationship with problems, delays, losses, and even successes changes completely. Problems no longer feel like punishments. Delays stop feeling like rejection. They become protection. Losses no longer define failure. They become redirection. When you trust Allah, your heart learns to rest even when life is noisy. You begin to understand that Allah sees what you cannot see, knows what you do not know, and plans in ways that are far beyond human logic. Trusting Allah changes how you react to hardship, how you handle fear, and how you move forward in life. It shifts your focus from a "why is this happening to me?" to a "what is Allah teaching me through this?" And that shift changes everything. Trusting Allah replaces anxiety with inner peace. One of the most powerful and life-changing effects of truly trusting Allah is the way it replaces constant anxiety with deep inner peace. Anxiety often comes from the fear of losing control, from worrying about outcomes that have not yet happened, and from carrying burdens that the human heart was never meant to carry alone. People worry about their future, their finances, their relationships, their health, and their mistakes. They replay the past and fear the unknown, not realizing that this mental struggle slowly exhausts the soul. Trusting Allah directly addresses this exhaustion, because it reminds the heart that it is not alone, and it was never meant to manage everything by itself. When a believer places genuine trust in Allah, they begin to understand a fundamental truth: nothing happens without His permission. This realization alone brings relief. It shifts the heart from panic to acceptance. Instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" the heart begins to say, "Whatever happens is already known by Allah, and He is more merciful to me than I am to myself." This belief does not remove challenges from life, but it removes the fear that those challenges will destroy you. Anxiety loses its power when the heart truly believes that Allah is in control of every detail, big and small. Trusting Allah also teaches the believer to let go of excessive overthinking. Overthinking is often the mind's attempt to protect itself, but it usually does the opposite. It creates fear, doubt, and emotional fatigue. Tawakkul teaches a healthier response. Take the necessary steps, make dua, and then leave the outcome to Allah. When you do this sincerely, your heart feels lighter. You stop fighting battles that belong to Allah. You stop punishing yourself for outcomes you could never control. This surrender creates a calm that cannot be explained by logic alone. It is a peace that settles in the heart because it is rooted in faith. Another reason trusting Allah brings inner peace is because it changes how you view the future. Instead of seeing the future as a threat, you begin to see it as a promise. You trust that whatever Allah has written for you carries wisdom, even if it arrives wrapped in difficulty. This belief allows the heart to rest. Even when tears fall, hope remains alive. Even when answers are delayed, patience grows. The believer learns that delays are not denials, and hardships are not signs of abandonment. They are part of a divine plan that unfolds at the perfect time. Ultimately, trusting Allah replaces anxiety with peace because it reconnects the heart to its true source of security. People, plans, and circumstances can change in an instant, but Allah never changes. When your heart relies on Him, it finds stability in an unstable world. You may still face storms, but you no longer feel like you are drowning. You feel held, guided, and protected. That is the quiet strength of Tawakkul, a peace that stays even when life is uncertain. Trusting Allah changes how you see problems. When trust in Allah is weak, problems appear overwhelming, frightening, and unbearable. They feel like dead ends that block every path forward. The heart immediately asks, why is this happening to me? And the mind searches for someone or something to blame. However, when a believer develops true tawakkul, the way problems are perceived changes completely. The problem itself may remain the same, but its weight on the heart becomes lighter because it is no longer viewed through fear, but through faith. Trusting Allah does not eliminate hardship, it transforms its meaning. A believer who trusts Allah understands that every difficulty is allowed for a reason, even if that reason is not immediately clear. Instead of seeing problems as punishments, they begin to see them as tests, lessons, or forms of protection. Sometimes Allah removes something you love because it would have harmed your faith, your character, or your future. Sometimes He delays what you desire because receiving it too early would weaken you instead of strengthening you. With trust, the heart accepts that Allah's wisdom is always greater than human understanding. This acceptance turns confusion into patience and bitterness into humility. Trusting Allah also changes the emotional reaction to problems. Without trust, a problem leads to panic, despair, and hopelessness. With trust, a problem leads to reflection, and growth. The believer begins to ask better questions. Instead of asking, how do I escape this pain? They ask, how do I grow through this test? This shift is powerful because it gives purpose to suffering. Pain without purpose breaks people, but pain with purpose builds strength. Tawakkul gives meaning to hardship by reminding the heart that Allah never tests a servant without also giving them the ability to endure it. Another important change that comes from trusting Allah is the ability to see problems as temporary, not permanent. When you rely on Allah, you know that no difficulty lasts forever. Just as ease follows hardship, relief follows patience. This belief protects the heart from despair. Even in the darkest moments, hope remains alive because the believer trusts that Allah's help can arrive at any moment, in any form. Sometimes the solution comes through changed circumstances, and sometimes it comes through a changed heart. Either way, Allah responds, but trusting Allah also frees the believer from comparing their struggles with others. Without trust, people ask why others seem to have easier lives. With trust, they understand that every soul is tested differently. What matters is not the size of the test, but the strength of the connection with Allah during the test. This understanding brings contentment and gratitude even in hardship. In the end, trusting Allah changes problems from obstacles into opportunities for closeness to Him. Each struggle becomes a reminder to return to Allah, to rely on Him more deeply, and to detach from the illusion of control. Problems stop being signs of failure and become signs of divine attention. And when a believer understands this, they walk through difficulties with dignity, patience, and unwavering hope, knowing that Allah is guiding every step. Trusting Allah strengthens faith and builds emotional strength. Trusting Allah is not only an act of belief, it is a process that gradually strengthens faith and builds deep emotional resilience. Faith does not grow strongest in moments of ease and comfort. It grows in moments when answers are unclear, when the heart feels heavy, and when there is no visible solution in sight. In those moments, choosing to trust Allah becomes a powerful form of worship. Every time a believer relies on Allah instead of giving in to fear or despair, their iman becomes firmer and more rooted. Trust turns belief from something theoretical into something lived and experienced. Emotional strength is often misunderstood as the absence of pain, but in reality, it is the ability to endure pain without losing hope. Trusting Allah teaches this balance. A believer who practices tawakkul allows themselves to feel sadness, disappointment, or grief, but they do not allow those emotions to define them or pull them away from Allah. They understand that emotions are part of being human, but surrender is part of being a believer. This understanding creates inner stability. Even when emotions fluctuate, faith remains steady. As trust in Allah grows, the heart becomes less dependent on people and circumstances for validation and security. This does not mean cutting off relationships or responsibilities, but it means no longer placing ultimate hope in things that can fail. People can disappoint, plans can collapse, and opportunities can disappear. But Allah never abandons His servant. This realization builds emotional independence. The believer learns to stand firm, even when support is limited, because their strength comes from their connection with Allah, not from external approval or success. Trusting Allah also strengthens patience and endurance over time. Each test that is faced with tawakkul leaves a mark of wisdom on the heart. Looking back, the believer begins to see how previous hardships shaped them, protected them, or redirected them towards something better. This reflection reinforces faith. It creates certainty that Allah's plans are always unfolding, even when they are not immediately visible. That certainty becomes a source of courage in future trials. Ultimately, trusting Allah builds a type of strength that cannot be shaken by life's ups and downs. It creates a heart that bends but does not break, a soul that feels pain but does not lose direction, and a believer who walks forward with confidence rooted in faith. This strength is quiet, steady, and deeply powerful. It is the strength of knowing that no matter how difficult the journey becomes, Allah is near, aware, and guiding every step.